I was looking around. I thought she was like talking about somebody else. It's like, wow, hard to follow. And let me tell you, if you had been with me on the drive over here, you would know how badly I need recovery and how far I have to go. Uh, I'm behind a car and I'm thinking things I shouldn't be thinking to be up here. And, I'm going to come down here. That's just too bright. So I see this guy in a diesel. He goes around, and I'm like, oh, I want to be that guy, but it's not safe. And I'm like, and I'm on the way to CR, and that just wouldn't be, I just need to stay back here and just enjoy the space. And so that worked out good with that car. But by the time I got to the Merlin gas station, I'm like, well, you just get out of my way. Get out of my way. I need to be at CR, and I do need to be at CR. And I got a call before I headed out, and it was Pastor Denny checking in about something, and I loved what he said. He found out I was going to be here, and he says, go give them heaven, and I just love that. And so I'm going to do my best to bring some small piece of heaven and hope. And so let's just go ahead and just open up in a word of prayer. Lord, I just want to thank you for each person that has come tonight. There are as many different stories and journeys in this room as there are people. And I thank you that you've created each one with a unique identity and a purpose, Lord, that can be fulfilled only in you. And God, for those things that life has brought us, for the hurts, for the habits, for the hang-ups, for the things that cling and hang so heavy sometimes to our hearts and minds, I just pray that somehow tonight, Lord, that somewhere in all the words and all the conversation, Lord, that there would be something that would just come from you to each person, where they would see their journey and maybe their life in a different way than when they came. And Lord, that it wouldn't be because of the words or anything that I would bring, God, but it would just be because of something that you would do, because you're just a God who loves each person in that individual way. And so, Lord, may none go away thinking that there's something that doesn't apply to them, Lord, or that they're not worthy, or that a sponsor or partner in life that would walk that journey with them doesn't apply. So, Lord, just give ears to hear, and God, give me strength to bring the words that you have given. In your name I pray, amen. So tonight we're going to talk about sponsor. Could I see hands for those of you that know what a sponsor is, and hands for you that don't know what a sponsor is? Okay, a few broken arms tonight. All right, that's a great start. So what we're going to do tonight is just kind of talk about that word sponsor. And I know, honestly, before I got in groups, and I was just kind of at the back there thinking that I was sort of the AV guy to help speakers with microphones that didn't work quite right and make sure they were on their ears. I really didn't. I had a sense of what a sponsor was, but it, to be honest, just absolutely scared me to death. And so I tried to come up with a lot of ideas of why a sponsor might not apply to me, how I could work around that. Honestly, kind of the low-hanging fruit is an accountability partner. I mean, there's something about getting a peer that just kind of works. It's like it's just easier than kind of going the sponsor route. And so I hope tonight, as we kind of break that apart a little bit, that you're going to get a sense of the usefulness of both. CR has this great way of looking at it, and I just love what they said. They said an accountability partner is like getting some buddies together and going to the gym. So it would be like me getting a bunch of guys with like little guns, and maybe I look up some stuff on the internet and I'm all excited and I'm like, yeah, we're going to do this. And some other guys are like, yeah, we're in this with you. And we go to the gym and like we're going to give it our best effort, and we really want to be huge. But there's a difference between doing that and, let's say, like calling up Michael Rich and going, hey, Michael, when we get to the gym, how about you come and you like bust our chops and help us have guns like yours? Now, obviously, we're going to have to be willing to put in some effort. We're going to have to do the work. That's the weird thing about gyms, too. It's like, what was it, at the the Parkway thing, I like paid for gym memberships at one of those raffle things, and it's like, man, why couldn't I just pay for the membership and like have something happen? And you got to actually show up, but that's a different story. So the other thing about a sponsor is it's kind of, at least for me, it was kind of this weird thing of it like went back to childhood where you had that weird Valentine's Day ritual thing. I don't know if they even allow that anymore. It's probably like non-Christian or unpatriotic or something. But you like 5th or 6th grade, and you had the little girl that you liked and had your eye on, and you're supposed to somehow fill this thing out, and then you got your heart going, and you're like, oh, maybe she'll. Not that I'm speaking from personal experience, of course. I'm happily married, and any pain like that would have faded. But your heart's like going, and it's like, and then you get the Valentine and you give it to her, and you're like, oh, I wonder if she'll be mine. And then, unfortunately, it turns out that not only will she not be yours, but she happens to be like the big giant bully future football player that takes you out back and like absolutely thumps you, and it's just kind of this thing of, oh, what if I ask and they say no? And so the good news, and probably the most important thing to understand tonight, is that there first of all is a sponsor of sponsors who will never say no, who will never turn you away, who will never let you down, who's available 24/7, who always has your best interests at heart, and who absolutely knows the answer and the journey of your life. And that simply is Jesus Christ. There's a verse that actually tells us that Jesus is at the right hand of God the Father, and he's making intercession for us. And so when Satan comes and he's like hurling accusations, hey, did you see Paul driving over on the way to CR, man? The way that guy drives, he shouldn't be up there. It should be that other guy. And Jesus is going, you know what? Time out. I paid the price. That debt's paid. You got nothing on Paul. And so, in some way, Jesus is the ultimate source of healing and hope and recovery. And anything that a sponsor or an accountability partner has to offer to us is found in the power of the hope and the strength that they've received in Jesus Christ. And so we should never mistake the relationship that we're talking about for something that takes the place of that most important relationship. But that said, sometimes we need people. We need somebody to talk to on the phone. I remember during just a dark time in my life, and it's a difficult thing, and really in some ways it was a selfish thing. But I would call just to hear a voice on the other end of the phone, just to have contact with another human being, to sometimes be able to piece moments of a day together and just feel love and hope. So sometimes it's that voice on the other end of a phone. Sometimes it's just a look of compassion from someone where we can see in their face that they really and truly care about us. Sometimes it's a hug. Sometimes it's a kick in the tail. Sometimes it's like the claw from Martin. Love the claw. Is the claw back? Yes, the claw lives. I love the claw. And so God understands that, and he's given us people to do life and to have a relationship with and to help us on that journey. And so that's what we want to look a little bit at more tonight. And I'm just going to stick my glasses down here. It's kind of weird to like take your glasses off so you can see, but unfortunately nearsightedness does that. So let's talk first just about an accountability partner. An accountability partner, for sake of a simple definition, is just someone, and I want to emphasize, of the same sex. So if I fail to put that in at any point, just insert that. If you have any questions about what the same sex is, Scott or Bruce will be glad to take the birds and the bees questions. Also, boyfriend, girlfriend, bad news, even your spouse, probably not the best choice. And again, if you have any questions, I'm sure they'll be glad to go into that with you. The other thing is your handout. I'm going completely renegade tonight. We're going to make it like a Where's Waldo thing, okay? So somewhere in here are some pieces of your handout, and we may have a pop quiz. You may just like fill in what you think, and we'll just go with that. There was stuff on there. It's like, I don't know about that, and I'm not. Let's just go through here, and at the end, we'll see who got the most. That's what we'll do. So, why do I need an accountability partner? Proverbs 25, 5-6 says, "A wise man is strong and a knowledgeable man grows in strength. For through wise counsel you will wage your war, and victory lies in an abundance of advisors. Proverbs 13:20, he who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. So accountability partners, as I said, they're just simply somebody that's on the journey. They want a good path in their recovery. They want something different than they've had in the past. Not quite sure how to get there, but they're on a new path. And so they're going to be willing to pray for you. They're going to be willing to encourage you. They're going to be willing to hold you accountable and say, hey, how are you doing with that? This is just your band of brothers that you come to know and trust and has your back. You know, in some way, honestly, it's the best of what church was meant to be. But, you know, for years, I mean, I came and I still do. I come to church and I get fixed up and I try to smell good and look good and I can be dying inside. But there's a group of guys that I can be honest with that love me where I'm at, and I can pick up the phone and I can talk to them about my struggles and tell them my weirdnesses, and they love me exactly where I am. And that's an incredible gift in life that you don't want to miss. So pick some guys that are on the journey and say, hey, you know, I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing here, but you look like you know, just somebody that would be a friend, and maybe we could try and do this thing together and get through and make it home in a different way than we have in the past. So that brings us to a sponsor, and a sponsor is simply someone who is ahead of you in recovery, and they're kind of on solid footing. So, you know, in a sense, it's like you're trying to get up the cliff, and they've kind of got a lockdown position, and they're able to reach down and willing to give you a hand up on your journey. The reason we need a sponsor, I mean, Scripture says it clearly, two are better than one, because together they can work more effectively. If one of them falls down, the other one can help them up. But if someone is alone, there is no one to help them. Two men can resist an attack that would defeat one man alone. And then in Proverbs, it says, iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. You know, a sponsor is going to bring the strength of their relationship with Christ, the things that they have learned in the recovery process, and they're going to take a piece of their life and be willing to give that to you as a gift. They're going to be a mentor, they're going to be a friend, they're going to be an encourager, they're going to be a truth teller, they're going to be a coach, and most of all, a sponsor should always be someone that points you to Christ. You know, to be honest, when I had the opportunity to become involved in some other folks' lives, there was a piece of me that always wanted to point them to Jesus, and at the same time, there was a piece of me that really liked to be the go-to guy and have answers. I really suggest that, you know, when you're looking for a sponsor, look for someone that will point you to Christ and not really find something within themselves from fixing or from helping or for having good advice. You know, get somebody that's in a place of pretty good healing to where they can extend you something without things attached to it. That doesn't mean God can't use, you know, what you bring and what you're able to offer, but it's a much purer thing if someone knows where they stand in their recovery and they're really solid in that. The difference between a sponsor is just simply what I mentioned about the gym. Both, I think, are really, really important to a lasting recovery. And you know, your sponsor, they're going to have a life. So there's going to be times they're going on vacation or they're camping or out of cell range or whatever. And there's just some things that are going to be good to develop in terms of relationships with other people that are on healthy paths. There's this, as we look at the qualities of a sponsor, then there's a verse that says, though good advice lies deep within a counselor's heart, the wise man will draw it out. And there's a saying I love in it, and it says simply, show me your friends, and I'll show you your future. And you know, a lot of us have been walking on a path where the friends that we've chosen, I mean, honestly, they mean well, but there's something about us making it out or making a change of course that for some reason it seems like sometimes they take it as a commentary on their own situation. And so maybe there's something about pulling you back down with a drink or with a drug that somehow makes them feel better, because now, like, look, you're not all that, you know, you're still just one of us and you're never going to make it out. So you want to surround yourself with friends that say, you know what, you can do better than that. I'm not sure exactly how, but I know that God made you for more than that, and you can make it out, and we're going to make it out together a piece at a time. And so if if you're choosing wise friends, then how much more so when you go to choose a sponsor? Because here's a single person that you're going to use as a point of reference for kind of you're not going to use a single person. Let me take that back. You're not going to use a single person as a point of reference. You're hopefully going to use Christ as a point of reference. But you're going to look at a person and say, I admire this person, and I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to be vulnerable with them with secrets. I'm going to depend on them for wisdom, for advice, to point me to right places. And so that's really, really important to make a wise choice in that. So in a nutshell, when you're thinking about what are the qualities of a sponsor, you're going to look for someone who is simply setting a good example. That's going to be a good example where they're strong in their relationship with the Lord. So as you're looking at them, are they someone that seems to have a grasp of Scripture? Not necessarily that they're walking around with Bibles and commentaries, although they might. But you're just looking at somebody and going, is this a person who really cares about Jesus and maybe knows what the Bible has to say about stuff that is broken in my life? You're going to look for somebody that is going to be willing to point you to recovery from a biblical perspective, and not necessarily just quote chapter and verse, the big book of AA, but quote chapter and verse of the book of life. You're going to want someone that understands recovery, though, and perhaps has worked a program. And I don't in any way mean that to say that there's anything wrong with the AA program. It's just adding on top, or just knowing that Jesus is the place that the power comes from to carry out those steps, and having someone that's going to point you to that is really important. You're going to look for somebody that makes good decisions about people and has a drama-free life. If the person that you're looking at seems like they're always swirling around in chaos and stuff's upside down in their life, do you really want to strap your life to that? And then are they demonstrating godly traits? If they're gossiping or cheating or lying or telling things about other people in a group, breaking confidentiality, those kind of things, you're probably going to want to steer clear. And then a very important point, are they transparent about their own struggles? Are they willing to share about stuff that they wish they'd done different and that went very badly, not just the things that went well? And then do you sense that they have care without becoming like wrapped up and codependent with your situation, trying to give advice? I heard, in looking at this material, I heard this just really a sad story, and this isn't in any way, if any of you in the room are professional paid counselors, this is not any way to demean your profession. You do an amazing service to the community. But in this particular case, a lady decided that she was just going to take the easy way out for a sponsor. And she kind of had the good sense to know that she needed a sponsor, but it was just kind of overwhelming for her. And so what she decided to do was go to a paid therapist. So she basically paid somebody $95 an hour to listen to her hurts, habits, hang-ups, and the pain of her heart and her life. And at some point, as she was basically spilling her guts, she looks up, and again, this is just this particular situation, this particular therapist who probably had her own stuff, but the therapist she was talking to apparently was just leaned back, just looking up at the ceiling with this tired look on her face, with all this pain just kind of, getting billed at $95 an hour. And she contrasted that to the authentic sponsor she found, who took time out and was giving freely of her life. And that sponsor sat there, and I believe even was there with tissues, just kind of living out with her that pain. And so you're going to want someone that's able to show compassion and concern for you, not feel sorry for you, because feeling sorry for you, you probably have already had potentially enough of that. But you do need somebody that's going to be sensitive to that pain, and not sit there looking up at the ceiling. And then, is it somebody that's going to encourage you to step outside of your comfort zone? So is it going to be somebody that pushes you a little bit, and before you know it, you're up front with this thing strapped to your head? What is the role of a sponsor? So the ultimate goal of a sponsor should be to help and challenge you to become totally dependent on Christ and to develop a personal desire for all that God has for you. Thank you, Dave Mathis. That was a beautiful word. Ultimately, a sponsor is going to only really have been in success. If a sponsor succeeds in getting you years and years of recovery, and you die with your sins and trespasses still as a debt hanging out before the God who made you, you've not really fully recovered. You have made it through life, but you have a much bigger problem. And so having someone who is ultimately able to point you to the source of healing in this life, and also the one who paid the price for you to have an eternal life free of the hurts, habits, and hang-ups that you have here on earth, is an incredible gift. And so that person is going to be willing to pray for you, for your healing, for your protection, for your growth. They're going to model qualities that you want to achieve in life. They're going to walk with you through the principles. They're going to be a sounding board that you can call up, and they're going to say, I'm just thinking probably doing that with maybe telling your boss that way is not going to be really helpful for your career. You're going to be able to discuss confidential details that would be too personal or take too much time to share in group. And most of all, you're going to have somebody that's going to be able to rejoice and celebrate victories for you. It's like, even if you pulled it off alone, it's like, what, if you've got nobody to go, woo, you the man, do that. That's what I love about Chip Night. Is Chip Night just beautiful? Maybe you fell and you got back up. We celebrate that. Maybe you've been up for 30 years, and by God's grace, you're getting heavy metal. But whatever that is, it's just a beautiful thing to have people cheering you on. I love Chip Night. So, somewhere between the mercy man that I'm sometimes known for and the hard nose, we come to the section, a sponsor is not. At the end of the day, a sponsor is you're responsible for your own stuff. So your sponsor is not your banker. He's not your child care worker. She's not your chauffeur, chef, bail bondsman. There's times, but use that sparingly, maybe once. So here's the thing is we're given a certain number of hours of life, and just like resources, we choose to spend our dollars, but we also choose where we're going to spend our life. And it's one thing to choose where we spend our own life, but it's another thing when somebody comes alongside and they say, you know what, I'm willing to take a piece of something that no amount of money can buy, that can never be replaced, and that my deathbed will have a finite measure, and I'm willing to give a piece of that to you. That's pretty heavy. And that's really something to be aware of. When someone believes in you enough to be willing to give a piece of something that's irreplaceable, just treat that with respect. And remember, they're human too, Maybe you called them in the middle of a bad day. Maybe they're struggling with something. Maybe there was a death in their family. So as much as you're in your own pain, make sure that you connect with them as a person, not just somebody on the other end of the phone that's always there for you. And extend grace to them when they have those bad days, when they're short with you, when maybe the advice isn't so good or isn't what you wanted to hear, or it's a little bit harsh. Just give to them what you yourself would wish to receive. And ultimately, don't ever use anything that your sponsor has ever done as justification for your own choices and your own failure. You own that. They're an add-on gift from God, but ultimately your success or your failure is your own. And your sponsor's deficiencies or perceived deficiencies should never be an excuse for that. And then most important, just remember your sponsor is not your savior. So if things don't work out with your sponsor, get a new one. If they work out really, really badly, that wasn't Jesus. So don't confuse that relationship you have with your sponsor. Well, that didn't work out with your relationship with Christ. And then how do I find a sponsor? So just a few tips. The responsibility is ultimately yours. I know that we don't actually publish any kind of a list because we need to kind of do our own groundwork. But a couple tips: same sex, again, no exception to that. Pray about it. Just ask God. Say, God, show me the right person. Go to them. If they decline, don't take it personally. I mean, a lot of guys, especially if you go to like a group leader or something, they could just be buried with people, wanting them to come alongside. If they spread themselves too thin, they're really not going to do. They're not going to do well for the larger group and the calling they have, and they're probably going to end up letting you down. And so they may say no, just kindly, to really avoid that. So don't take it personally. Just get back up on your feet and pray again. Ask the next person that God puts on your heart. And also you could have a temporary sponsor. Maybe you go to somebody and they say, you know what, I can't commit to a full ongoing relationship, but I can get you through and be there for a while. And then remember that sponsorship is not a lifetime commitment. So it's not. I mean, you're not like. Well, you're not supposed to be choosing a mate here. If you follow the rules, okay? If you follow the rules, it will not be a lifetime commitment. If it is a lifetime commitment, see Scott or Bruce, because you got problems. And then the other thing is just position yourself in healthy places. So, I mean, obviously don't show up at, the bar you used to hang out at and go, hey, anybody want to help me out of this place? Position yourself in, game night. Watch how somebody plays a game, If you watch me, I'm going to be like type A. I'm going to win this out of my way, Maybe I'm not the guy to help you through an anger problem because I got stuff. And see, the craft night. Woo! The women, anyway, that thing. Craft night, I don't know. Watch how somebody beads and go, hey, you're perfect. CR groups, church, and the other thing is you can always go kind of a little off calendar. So maybe you see someone at church and you just have a bunch of respect for them. And I had a guy once that was an elder or something, and he just sat down with me and he shared his story, and it was like. You remember the Memorex commercial with the guy sitting in the chair and he was like blowing back? It was just like, are you joking me right now? Really? So you never know if you look at someone that seems to have their head screwed on straight, is in love with God and walking the road, maybe just say, hey, could we go out, have some breakfast, lunch? Maybe you tell me a little bit about your journey and just see what happens. And then the other thing I would really suggest is just know kind of define your expectations. So talk with somebody and say, hey, look, here's what I'm struggling with. Here's where I'd like to be. And maybe they also will have some things that they're going to expect from you. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to sponsor you, but I want to know you're serious. So I want to make sure that you're committed to showing up here or joining in with the men's group and really doing this thing, because I'm willing to invest my life with you, but I got to see that you're in this game too. I'm not going to do more for you than you're actually, willing to do for yourself. And then the last thing is just simply don't expect an answer on the spot. It's oftentimes a good idea just to meet and then go home, maybe sleep on it, pray on it, think about it, and then just reconnect with them and see if it makes sense for you guys to move forward. So I know that we're tight on time, and we're pretty much at the end here. What do you think, Bruce? A couple more minutes, or do you want to cut? Okay. In closing, I want to put up this verse. A lot of times as I prepare for something like this, I'll just kind of do a dump of different verses that come to mind or that I find, and over time, a lot of them fall by the wayside. And, honestly, for some reason, this verse just kind of stuck in there as something that there was someone here tonight that maybe it would be meaningful to. And it fits in a funny way with what I'm about to say, but hopefully that'll be a blessing for someone. In the beginning, I talked about the kind of that awkward ritual of finding a Valentine, and The truth is that as funny as that sounds, there are times in life where all of us have kind of put ourselves out there, and we've gotten hurt very, very badly as a result of it. We've been rejected or sometimes much, much worse. And vulnerability and healing are kind of a weird thing. It's kind of a weird word for a guy even to be up here talking about. So understand if you want to exit stage left, and particularly if I get out my Kleenex, it's going to be a bit troubling. But vulnerability and healing are linked. And there's this incredible purity of love that makes taking that chance again, whether you were burned at a young age in a way that never should have happened, whether along the way you did things, someone else did things. This recovery process and the process of a sponsor and accountability partner, all of that working really has a tremendous context in being willing to be vulnerable. And by vulnerable, I don't in any way mean in a romantic sense. I mean in the sense that you find someone that you trust enough to be willing to share the wounds that you've taken in life in an honest way. And, Bruce mentioned, this wasn't even on the radar. I had a completely different thought and direction. But Bruce, you mentioned that to me today, and it just kind of stuck with me. And so in closing, I came across a poem by a lady named Hannah Bauer, and I just wanted to read that because I felt that somewhere in there, and I don't know how to necessarily even tie it together, but somewhere in that process of finding someone who loves us that we can be safe with, and telling them the things that we are terrified to tell them, somewhere in that process, there's a place of healing. So Hannah writes, "I hate being vulnerable. It's terrifying. Letting go of the emotions I work so hard to hide. Every day at some point, I have to force down the negative emotions at the thought that someone might see and know that I am not the strong person I show myself to be, that I am weak and that I am struggling. I hate being vulnerable. It entails opening up to someone and telling all those dirty little secrets that I try so desperately to hide. Being raw with someone. But at the same time, it sounds beautiful. To be able to find someone you can be vulnerable with that you trust. Raw trust. How can you know when you find the right person? Can you know? I crave it. I fear it. Whatever I share could be used against me. They could laugh in my face. They could mock my pain. They could kick my dreams in the dust. They might never speak to me again. I could be rejected. But I could be accepted. I could be loved. I could be respected. I could be understood. It's terrifying. And it's beautiful. And friends, it's the gospel. It's the gospel that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. He looked at our dirty, stained faces. He looked at our fist held up to heaven. He looked at needles hanging out of our arms. He looked at all the things that we've done. And in that moment, he loved us enough that he was willing to give his life in our place. So my encouragement is just simply to find someone who knows him, who loves him, and is willing to give a piece of their life to help you know and love him and find the recovery that can be found only in him. Have the courage to ask, find other healthy people, other companions along the way, band of brothers, band of sisters that will have your back, and walk toward that place where all the things that now so heavily weigh us down will finally be free of. And in the meantime, we have a hope that nothing can ever take away or replace, and a reason to live. So let me just say a prayer and we'll close. Father, I thank you for a gift that makes recovery something other than just hanging on, other than just stringing moments together. God, there are places, and there are times for that. Many of us know that well. But there's also a time, Lord, to begin to leave behind those things that so easily entangle us, to throw them off and to run well the race that you have destined for us before the foundation of the earth. God, I thank you that you loved us enough that you didn't leave us in our sin and trespasses dying in the gutter, but you sent Jesus, who knew no sin of his own and yet was willing to come to lay down the badge of heaven and to suffer and to die in our place for a debt that we owed. And God, I thank you that that changes everything. And it's not that the steps aren't important, and it's not that the people that share the journey aren't important, but most important, Lord, is that as we fix our eyes on you and we run together and we encourage each other and we lift each other up, God, we find hope not only for this, but for life to come. And I thank you for that hope that is found only in your Son. I thank you also for the brave people that run that race, and I thank you for sponsors and accountability partners that are willing to give of their life so that we can run that race with endurance, so that we can encourage each other when we succeed, and that we can, Lord, when we fall, that we fall on your grace and we pick each other back up. So thank you for our time tonight. God, if there's anyone in this room that just feels, you know what, I hear that, but who would want to be my partner? Who would love me enough? Who would come alongside of me? Lord, you love them enough. And in this room, there is someone who would love them just that much. And if not in this room, Lord, there is someone who would love them just that much, because you do. So let no one go away thinking this is a message for someone else. It's a message for them. And Lord, if there's anyone here that doesn't know the joy and the hope that's found in you, God, may tonight be their night where they simply surrender their life to you, the ultimate sponsor, the friend that sticks closer than a brother, will never leave or forsake them. In your precious name I pray. Thank you all. Blessings on your recovery.